Hi, I'm Demian Gover. So today I wanted to tell a little story about myself. So a few years ago, I was unemployed. Um, I was applying everywhere. I couldn't get arrested in this town. Um, I was very involved in tourism. In fact, a few years ago, I was the chairman of the tourism commission in my county, and I was. It was really mostly about event planning, a lot of community work. But that position was all volunteer, and I would really hoped that it would kind of move into. I was hoping that somebody would notice what I was doing and see that I had some talent and skill, and and I was really hoping that somebody would offer me a job. And so I started doing some things on my own, and I really kind of let that idea go. And all of a sudden I got a phone call from somebody that I had just met once at one of these community events. And she said, I mentioned, I remember that you mentioned that you had a psychology degree, and I was wondering, are you doing anything with your degree? And I was like, no, really, I'm not. And she said, well, let me tell you what I'm doing. She said, I'm working for a program. It's a Medicaid program, and I work for this elderly gentleman. He has cerebral palsy. He's quadriplegic. He's in a wheelchair, and I provide him community access. And she said, it's a 6-month program, and my 6 months are up, so now he has to hire somebody else. Would you like to meet him, and would you maybe be interested in that? And I was like, sure. So I met him, we got along, and it was a job that ended up paying like $30 an hour for 6 months. And but so that was interesting enough as it was. So what happened was, as soon as I forgot about it, as soon as I let go, I already knew that I wanted to be employed. I already knew that I wanted to be paid well to use the skills that I'd studied and practiced. And so, not only did I have that opportunity just handed to me, keep in mind, this call came out of the blue. This was not a job that I applied for. And then as soon as I did that, I got another call from the lady who ran the community kitchen. It's a place where people can bottle their own jams and jellies and things like that. And they were looking for a marketing director. And I was like, that sounds great, but I don't have time for that anymore. I've got this full-time job now. Then I got a call from the radio station, who I had, I'd done a couple of radio spots for, some of the community events, and they'd said, we need somebody to come in and run this new equipment that we're getting and do sound editing and voiceovers and things like that. Would you be interested in that? I was like, well, yeah, of course, that sounds great, but I've got this full-time job now, and I couldn't do it. So what I'm getting at is when you put yourself in the mindset of where, I stopped resisting. I stopped telling myself that money was difficult, that getting a job was difficult. I spent several years trying to convince other people that what I had to offer was valuable. And of course, apparently a couple of people saw that, and it didn't work out the way I thought it would. It worked out much better. But as soon as I quit telling myself that, nobody wants me, everybody's overlooking me, as soon as I got that out of my head, people just started throwing job offers at me. And I realized if I was really honest with myself, I had noticed other times in my life that the exact same thing had happened. But I didn't know then the things that I was learning at that time, just a few years ago. So if I look at myself like 10, 15, 20 years ago, and look at myself, say, 5 or 6, 7, 8 years ago, there's a huge difference in how I took those events. And this time I saw those types of events for what they really were. They were a reflection of what I was putting out mentally. And I was learning how to work with that. So when people ask, so what miracles have you seen? What manifestations have you produced? That was certainly wasn't one of the first or earliest that I noticed, but it was one of the most profound. It was one of those that you had to sit up and take notice, because things were happening that shouldn't be happening, and yet they were. So that's just a little story about myself that I wanted to share. Many more to come, but as we're talking about these ideas and how we put them into practical application, just wanted to share an example of how we do that, and how you don't even have to be aware that you're doing something. The thing is not that you're doing it on purpose. You don't have to do it on purpose, but what I realized, when you do it on purpose, then all of a sudden you're in control of it. It's still a mystery about how it happens and how it works, but I truly believe the how is none of our concern. The real question is what. So what self-talk are you participating in? What obstacles are you allowing to be in your way? And what would you have to say to yourself to let those obstacles go? Till next time, I'm Demian Gover. Thank you.